Hi guys, welcome. For the ones who don't know me, my name is Bianca. This is my own studio, and Self-Retreat is the first studio in the UK dedicated to Kundalini Activation. So you can find this practice here every week, and it is my honor to hold space for the ones who choose to come into my little sanctuary in the middle of Camden Town. Kundalini is just the most popular word used to describe the most powerful force that we have within us for transformation of any kind. It is the driving evolutionary force behind our existence, but it's usually dormant in our root chakra at the base of our spine. So the big question was always, how do you access all of that potential? And throughout the history of humankind, there were countless of techniques that were codified trying to access all of that potential. But most of the traditional practices, they are self-generating methods. They're willful practices that depend on you learning a certain set of techniques like breath work, postures, visualizations, meditation, and directing, like boosting your energetic system and direct this energy to your root chakra so you can then activate your Kundalini and expand your consciousness, because Kundalini is our bridge into higher consciousness, when you can start having, these deep mystical experiences or deep realizations about your life, your journey here on earth, and pretty much anything about, like the universe. So a Kundalini activation is basically the other side of that coin. The other side of the coin of these traditional practices like yoga, meditation, tantra, qigong, breath work, because we call it the path of surrender and not the path of the will, meaning that there is nothing that you should really do before coming into a session apart from just having an open mind and opening yourselves up, like lying on the mat, closing your eyes, listening to an amazing playlist, I promise, and seeing what's gonna happen. So there is no guiding of the energy of any sort, no visualization. This is not meditation. So when you come into the session, basically you just open yourselves up to tap into the highest intelligence that you have within you and allow it to guide your own transformation. Basically, myself as a facilitator, I'm here to hold the fields, and then, kind of like a tuning fork, you're gonna go bling, bling, and that's gonna activate your own Kundalini, and that's gonna start to flow. And that is why it's so amazing about this practice, because you're working with your own energy, and that goes with you. We're not only working with that ascending force of Kundalini, but we're also have this descending force of consciousness, because the challenge of every single spiritual practice is integration. How do you get that, that you experience when you're having those melting into oneness and having those deep realizations through plant medicine even, but how do you translate that into real action, in your daily life, when you have a job, you have a dog to walk, you have relationships to care for? So having this descending force of consciousness allows us to also embody whatever it is that we are experiencing when we are having those realizations. And it is really transformative, because what I really see happening over time is that the biggest gift that this practice brings us is clarity. So I see all my clients coming over and over and over again, like we just start to have so much clarity into our life, and we start moving from a state of wondering, like, what should I do? What is the next step? What is good for me? To simply a state of knowing that's the way, or this is what I have to let go of. And all of this clarity that happens when we start letting go of things that no longer serves us brings us at this beautiful space for real action. And it may sound super easy, right? You just come here, close your eyes, and magic will happen. And it can, as all my clients who have been coming over and over and over and over again can share. But basically, surrendering is also a form of practice. And it's something that we are not thoughts throughout our whole lives, especially in modern society, because we're all about achieving, doing, setting, like our intention and going after something, striving and pursuing and pivoting and changing and all of that. And there are beautiful practices out there, but whenever you come into a Kundalini activation session, just come with an open mind, no expectations and no intentions, and just trust that this evolutionary force that you have within you, that spark of divinity inside of you, knows what is the best way to support you in your journey. A lot of people come here thinking maybe I want to open my heart chakra, or I want to heal my relationship to that person. I want to let go of that big trauma that I had in my life. But then maybe instead of tackling that, head on, what the energy will do is it will start to come through the outskirts and dissolve. And then suddenly, you look back a week, a month, a year later, and you simply you don't recognize the person that you once were before. Because what these practices does is that it will unlock that first little step that will allow you to take that second little step, and so on and so forth, that creates this cascade of transformation. And what it does, it changes our perception of reality. So, maybe suddenly you realize that that thing that really used to annoy you is just not there anymore, because it is whatever Kundalini clears, that stays. So it has this exponential potential for transformation, because you just build on top. But most people will have a very gradual, very subtle build up of their experiences in session and their perception of reality outdoors. But there is a whole range of experiences that you may or you may not have during a session, that goes pretty much from nothing, maybe just feeling like you're super relaxed, or maybe your body is so heavy that it's glued on the floor that it can't even move, to maybe feeling some energetic sensations in your skin, feeling there's electricity running through your body, or feeling internal vibrations, to seeing light, seeing color, having astral travels, having memories surfacing, to having none of emotional release that goes from laughing to screaming to crying uncontrollably, or laughing uncontrollably, or having energetic orgasms. Believe me, pretty much anything can happen, and I have seen it all throughout the hundreds of sessions that I've held. Even people singing opera, and they are not even singers. So the thing is that even though we're going to be doing this in a group session, every single person in the room will have a different experience, because we are very individual beings. So the energy will manifest, our own energy will manifest in the way that it's appropriate for you in this moment right now. Not what you think you need, not what you think, it will solve that big problem in your life, but what you exactly need in this present moment. So this practice is about being present with whatever arises, and holding yourself in there with kindness, with compassion, and curiosity, to see where it will take you without having a desired outcome. So being in a group session of Kundalini activation sometimes can be a little bit weird if this is your first time, because it can be very loud, very intense, or sometimes being very quiet. There is no way of predicting how somebody will react to the energy for the first time, so there is only one way: coming here and seeing. But whenever we are in this group session, for me, is the best way to experience this, because the field that is created is incredible, and it can help us to open some doors that perhaps we wouldn't do by ourselves. And I know that in the beginning, especially if this is your first session, we can be a little bit self-conscious about expressing ourselves, about, like whatever comes into the surface. But whenever I see, like somebody screaming on this corner of the room, I will see somebody across the room going, finally, maybe, like now finally I can do this, or maybe I don't even have to do it because somebody else is doing it for me. So trust that whatever is going on around you is an invitation for you to go deeper in your process. Even if you hate the song, amazing. What is that evoking? What sort of memories or feelings or emotions is coming to the surface because of that? So everything, okay, is a gateway for you to go deeper. So my invitation to every single person who comes in here is to be present, have compassion for yourselves and for everyone else around you, because we are holding this field together, but we have our own individual experience. And it is really, 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 really beautiful to see when in a group session we start opening ourselves up, dissolving that barrier, like of awkwardness, of separation, of judgment. And when we can do this together, the field amplifies and we heal together and we inspire each other's through our own journey. So that's why I've been really trying to foster at Self Retreat is this community, because going through your Kundalini journey alone, it can be quite lonely, quite overwhelming. But when we come into this community, we see ourselves in other people. So, and we see other people, like resonating with what we're saying, with how we are expressing, how the energy is manifesting through us, and in what we say after. So the sharing circles are my favorite part of the session, and we always finish holding this beautiful container at the end of the session. So my invitation to you is to share, even if that's just one word, whatever you're going through, because that will help you to integrate your experience later. So all of this to say that a lot of things can come up in a session, but I will be here holding the space for you with an open heart, with presence, without passing any judgments, to hold you through your transformation, however that would be. And remember that it can be, for most people, especially in the beginning, it can be a very gradual build-up of the experience in the session and later in life. But it can also be that you come here for the first time and it's almost like turning on the lights, like all at once. It can be very external, like it can be very intense sometimes, but just trust that your energy, your Kundalini, your highest intelligence within you is guiding that process, and it will support you through your journey, especially when this is shared in community. So one of the other things that can happen during a session is having spontaneous body movement. And in case that happens to you in the first time, it will be very weird. Your mind will come in and think, what is this? Why, like why my hands, my fingers are moving, or maybe your hips start shaking, or your chest wants to come up, and your mind will think, am I enjoying the music so much that I'm dancing here? But it's just the energy running, moving your body as it goes where it needs to go. So one way that I like to explain this to people is, for example, if in yoga, which is a willful practice, you move your body through different postures, through different asanas, to create this flow of energy to prepare your body for meditation, so you can then tap into those higher realms. Here in a Kundalini activation, because it's the other side of that coin, the energy moves your body as it goes where it needs to go. So it would be very weird if this is your first, if this happens to you. But if in case it does, just tap into that flow, follow that urge. Otherwise, I just recommend you to stay where you are, and let the energy guide you internally if it's not external, because Yes, we can have spontaneous body movements, but this is not in any way the goal of this practice, or because you didn't move, it doesn't mean that you're not feeling it, that you're not getting it. Even if you just have like a very relaxed and calm experience, that's what you needed for today, because the energy is still working underneath the layers, like through your energetic body, preparing to expand your experience, to expand your consciousness. So just trust that today, like for this session that you're coming, you will get exactly what you need, and be open as to how that will manifest. Again, no expectation during these sessions. It doesn't matter if this is your first session, 5th session, 100th session, it will always be different. In the sharing circle, people always usually start saying, oh, today was very different. And you're gonna hear this a lot. But again, just all of this to say that in this practice, we are not seeking the bliss, we're not seeking the light and love, or just like the mystical experience, and we're not like either just trying to avoid or trying to let go and dump like all of that trauma out of our bodies. It's not about one or the other, it's about seeking wholeness. It's coming back to the beautiful essence that we already are, like after like letting go of that conditioning, all of that box that we were put from the moment that we were born. So it's not about like having any sort of experience, whatever you think that you need, so it's not just about letting go of the trauma, but also coming to those deep connections with your internal power, that it's there and it's accessible. So be curious, explore, and see where it will take you today. Okay, and one more thing that I will say is that it's a process, okay? So it is a journey. Whenever you tap into your Kundalini, it's not a one-off event. It's not a one-off thing and then you're settled. It is a continuum of an unfolding process of expansion of your consciousness, because this is a practice for your spiritual growth. And everything that happens, all of the things that you let go along the way, it's kind of like a byproduct of you coming back into your essence and getting to know the real you behind all of the things that we've been carrying with us throughout our lives. So again, no expectations, no intentions. Just come with an open heart. I will be here holding a safe space for you to go as deep or as subtle your experience will be. And you can always find me. If you have any questions, just reach out. And if you feel called to try this practice, believe me, you are ready. There's 2 types of people in this world, in my experience. The ones who will hear about it, will like see it on Instagram and will go like, oh my God, I have to try it. Or like the other 50% will go like, hell no, like what is this? So if you feel curious, trust this. Trust that intuition that is bringing you to tap into your Kundalini. It means that you are ready to step into it. It is reclaiming the most powerful, the most beautiful aspect of your existence. So go for it. I will be here. Thank you, and I'll see you soon.